Hello everyone, greetings and welcome in the Astra Tactica series. While it sounds really tactical, probably it will be just me ranting about Warhammer. I would like to show you some interesting combos, tactics and guides mostly. The first one I thought would be how to build an army guide. Although it's not really a guide, it's just my thought process. Maybe it could be useful for you, a new type of insight, or just a base or a frame for a thinking process. Because let's be honest, every person is different. What works for me may be not working for you. Well, when I go to an event or a tournament, how do I make my list? First of all, I divide all the units into 5 different groups and pick from these. The 5 groups that I use: mobility, damage, objective grabbers, force multipliers, and chew toy. Yes, chew toy, you heard it right. Let's go through them. Let's start with the easiest and the most boring one: objective grabbers. Well, these are the guys or the girls who will get points for you, but won't do any real damage. Usually, you can divide the objective grabbers into 2 sections. First one, cheap. Second one, durable. Sometimes they are in both. How do I use cheap objective grabbers? Mostly, you hide them behind buildings, behind barricades, or things like that, because they won't do much damage. And they are not dangerous to the enemy. They won't be a threat, so they won't be at the first target. If they are targeted, maybe the enemy can't shoot them because out of line of sight, or they are gonna soak up a lot of damage because they are behind the cover. So much harder to kill. And even if the enemy is starting to shoot at them, it's enough for one to survive, and the point is still yours. So nothing to rave about. But if you have some points left, you can give them a heavy weapon and they can still help out your army with some shots, like a rocket or last cannon, heavy bolter, or things like that. Let's go to the other section. Damage. You have to deal damage to win, or at least to reduce the number of assets that the enemy have. It will be much easier for you. Also, the damage dealers are really good distraction as well, but that is not their main purpose. Damage dealers are usually either fast, durable, or have a good range. There are 3 types of damage that you can deal. It's either shooting, which is really great. You have the range, you have an enormous amount of weapon that you can choose from with different profiles, different capabilities. So it's really versatile, and you have the range. You can make some kind of an area control, because nobody likes to step in the line of fire. But if your mainly shooting units gets into melee, well, the abilities to shoot will be hindered or stopped completely. So you have to be careful. Melee damage. Melee damage is really great, and it has access a lot of shenanigans and tricks, like piling in, charging, consolidating. These are abilities, but how you use these abilities can be really tricky and can give you a huge advantage, which in itself deserves an episode. And also you can shut down enemy shooting if you charging, consolidating tanks or things like that. But if you can't shut down it completely, they still have to shoot the unit which they are in melee with. And if they are not a vehicle, they can only shoot their pistols in melee. So sniper rifles and things like that, well, in this case it's only looking nice on the model but doesn't do anything. Melee is good, melee is great, but the hardest part is you have to get in melee range.
ほう、向かってくるのか。逃げずにこのディオに近づいてくるのか。
近づかなきゃてめえをぶちのめせないんでな。
ほうほう。では十分近づくがよい。
It can be hard because of the terrain, because of the deployment, but also it can be hard because your opponent made a really good screening. So in case of Imperial Guard, you can't charge the tanks because of the guardsmen in front of them. So if you charge the guard, well, in the next turn you get obliterated by the tanks. So no tanks. And that's why you have to mix some types of damages. Because for example, you have a squad of intercessors who shoot down the guardsmen, while you can charge the tanks and rip them apart in melee. But also, if you mix damages, you can hinder yourself. Like for example, you have 10 assault intercessors who want to charge 10 Eldar Guardians. Because you can kill them in melee, and if you charge and kill at least one of them, you take over the objective that they are securing. You have a 7-inch charge to make, and you start to shoot at this Eldar unit, where your opponent will probably take away the closest models. So your charge is getting longer and longer with each killed model. While the 7-inch charge has around 50% probability, a 12-inch charge is around 3, I guess, so I would not recommend it. While you charge them, you can probably kill them in melee, and the shooting unit can shoot another unit, so you deal more damage all in all, and you get the point. So that's why you have to think before you pull the trigger. After that you have the psychic damage, which is mostly your space wizards. These require tests. In case of double 6, You wound yourself, but your spell will be great in most cases, and not a lot of unit able to stop it. But if you roll double one, you hurt yourself and your spell goes, and the enemy also able to deny you, if that is happening. If they have another Psyker nearby you, and they roll better than you. This is extremely potent and does a lot of mortal wounds. Remember, mortal wounds can only be saved by Feel No Pain, so no armor, no invulnerable saves. And some of the psychic powers are even allows you to target characters, so you have a short-ranged but upgraded sniper that the enemy can't really protect himself from it. So good, dicey, extremely potent, but has some drawbacks. After that, another really important thing, mobility. This is an absolutely must to win games. There is a saying, you win the game in the movement phase. Well, it's not completely true, but I've seen many people lose their game in the movement phase. So you can lose it in the movement phase 100%. On mobility, what do I mean? To reach places on the board far away from you. This can be deep strike, forward deployment, movement shenanigans, transporting with transports, or just simply high movement speed and or flying. It's the best if you can combine the fast and the damage dealing unit. Then you have a precision tool, so hit where it hurts the most. For example, a unit of Sanguinary Guard. Force multipliers. Well, they are just your trusty captain, lieutenant, commanders for the Imperial Guard, Dark Apostle for the Chaos Space Marines, Warlocks or Forces to the Eldar, Archons to the Drukhari. So basically, units that are buff your other units. Well, in most cases, there are 3 types of them. One of them is the easiest, the stable aura. Like Captain, Lieutenant, they have an aura ability, but they give bonuses if the unit is near enough to them. You don't have to do anything, it just happens and it's nice. The other one, when you have to choose a unit, like the Chapter Master ability or an Imperial Guard Commander. You have to say the name of the ability and the unit that you give it to. Like my Chapter Master is going to buff that unit of Assault Intercessors to reroll all of their hit rolls. Well, you said it, your opponent heard it, it's happened, that's it. And there are other types of buffs, like the Chaplain or the Librarians, when you have to make a dice roll or a psychic test to be able to give the ability to the unit. But usually, these abilities are really great, however, there is a small chance that you fail them. In case of psychic powers, there is a little bit bigger than in case of the Chaplain or the Dark Apostle, so the litanies. And after that, my favorite, Chew Toy. Chew Toy is the best if you can combine mobility with durability. How does a Chew Toy work? Mostly, you pick a big scary unit that is either cheap or durable. In the last event, where I finished at the 4th place, I took a big unit of Chaos Spawns and I threw it into the face of the enemy while using stratagems and spells, gave them a little durability and just sent them forth. They have big toughness, they have a lot of wounds. So the enemy either has to shoot them many times or has to use their anti-tank weaponry on them. However, in the first case, then they are not shooting at my infantry with anything good. So I can take really good places on the board for myself. For counter-attacking, for scoring objective and things like that. If he or she shooting them anti-tank weaponry, well, then he or she can shoot my big things. And if he or she completely ignores them, well, I had 6 Chaos Spawn in the middle of his lines. So wreaked havoc. It felt good. The other example for a Chew Toy. Pick a 10-man Terminator squad, put them in the middle of the board with an Apothecary. For better effect, Chief Apothecary. Terminators are really tough. If you put them in cover, they are even more tougher. Enemy has to shoot anti-tank weaponry and still not sure if he can kill 1 or 2. The Chief Apothecary gives them more survivability, and at the end of your movement phase, you can resurrect one in every turn. So usually they last for 3 turns or the whole game, taking up a good chunk of the middle field for you, which really reduces the enemy's capabilities to deep strike, and they can go into every direction where you need help the most. I think that's it for now, and soon I will bring one 1000 points list and one 2000 points list to show you usually how do I divide my points between these rolls. Thank you for listening, and I'm trying to follow up as soon as possible. Bye bye.